For whatever reason, despite being a big fan of the previous four entries, I never played GTA 5 until now. After seeing it leaving the Game Pass soon, I decided to dive into it and hope that I would be able to at least finish the main story. 38 hours later, I can honestly say that this is definitely one of the best games I've ever played in the last decade. It's not to say that the GTA 5 doesn't have its issues. An overly limiting mission structure, a clunky control, and a movement design that is especially frustrating when indoors in case of indoors and handling of vehicles. But this is the case where positives far outweighs the negatives to deliver an experience overall I think very good. Even though the story suffers some continuity problems and even a lack of logic here and there, it was actually more interesting than I thought it would be. The aggressiveness in tone and themes were the most prevalent trait in previous GTA titles, and it is great to see it is refined here, even if it is done in an over the top caricatural way. Being able to jump between three different protagonists with all their particular personalities, strengths, storylines, and business opportunities to explore was, in my opinion, the best addition this franchise has done in terms of depth in gameplay. And of course, the game's strongest point is the world. The setting GTA 5 able to create is very beautiful and graphics is very good. I just cannot believe they were able to run this game on a Xbox 360. It looks like a PS4 game, but it runs in Xbox 360. That's how good the graphics was. This may not be my favorite GTA in terms of atmosphere, but in terms of fun factor, it is the most accomplished world. And and I get why it serves as a blueprint for open world games that came after. I really enjoyed the game. It manages to consistently keep the mission fresh and fun, and the protagonist, especially Trevor, was fucking hilarious to watch. The heists were really fun to play, and I really felt like I was in the world of Los Santos, and there was always something to do when I played the main missions. However, I did find that a lot of the villains are not fully fleshed out, and they all feel like a mini villains. Some of the missions are honestly quite boring, like scouting the port, and the open world isn't used to its full potential. The protagonists, Franklin, Trevor, and Michael, are all very compelling, but some of their stories aren't as fleshed out as others. For example, I felt that Franklin's story in the hood was a bit cheap, and whilst the missions were a lot of fun, I didn't really care about his struggles, as I didn't really see it develop into something more. Meanwhile, I feel like you're playing the game only with Michael. Michael was the main and only protagonist the game had in its beta version, and they just shipped out the game with Franklin and Trevor as a playable protagonist much later in the development. But I'm not really trying to go into spoiler for the game for anyone who hasn't played it. Now, my main issues is with the story of this game. As you all know, I feel like GTA 5 has one of the weakest story I have ever played in a video game. It is not bad, but it reeks of wasted potential, especially towards the ending. Not only it is very anticlimactic, but it felt pretentious and shallow. We had Michael shoehorn in some supposedly profound statement about capitalism in America and the way in which criminals like him and Devin and everyone in this game benefit from it by exploiting it. It would have been a fantastic theme to focus throughout the game, but they really didn't. Besides other mention from Michael at the beginning to Franklin, thus coming off as irrelevant and contrived. Franklin literally feels like a third wheel in the story, and a blank slate. His character is very shallow and contrived. I feel like they tried very weakly to make some grand statement about the game at the last minute that they hadn't tried to make it throughout its entirety. It felt out of place. Trevor remained largely quiet, something I wasn't too happy with. There was nothing about this that is insightful or poignant to him, and rightfully so. It is just another day at the office for him, as he wanders back to his trailer park home, and that was it. With Devin's body floating off the trunk of the car, we saw the conclusion of the great epic that is GTA 5. And while I love this game as a story, it is probably one of their weaker efforts. I start to think maybe I just become spoiled by the narrative structure in GTA 4 was largely intelligent and resounding tale. But this weekend I downloaded GTA 3 for my phone to give me a free roam fix when out out on about, and while playing it I realized this isn't just a case. Sure, GTA games have never been known for its strong narrative and overarching stories, but they always been known for its brilliantly subtle satire. Their archetypical character, which often serve as a parodies of the stereotype they suppose they supposedly represent, and they're often conflicting but equally interesting comment made by these various characters throughout the game. While the quality of the writing in GTA 5 was top notch, I don't feel like anyone ever really had anything interesting to say. One of the only moments I feel like the game had anything truly interesting to offer was controversial torture scene. While I was initially repulsed by the apparent pointlessness of it all, Trevor's following conversation with the torture was gold, like pure gold. He illustrated some great points about torture. Mainly it doesn't work, which in this mission it doesn't really. I felt like this was GTA doing its usual work, and such as it is one of the scenes in the game I end up admiring the most. But I don't feel like anything else touch on in this fashion throughout the rest of the game, even where there are plenty of opportunities to do so. Not only there are chances missed to make any important statements on anything, but the characters are at their worst in any GTA title. Every single character in this game was a horrible human being. There was not one redeeming character, save for one very minor characters like Solomon or Patricia. Previous games had array of likable criminals who had heart of some kind, regardless of how dubious their professional life may be. While the characters in GTA 5 sure were funny at times, probably more realistic than previous games, they were very unlikable, and worst of all, bland. Finally, the satire in GTA 5 taking such a turn that Los Santos doesn't feel like a sprawling city that exists within the same rules and norms that our own world does, but an outlandish place where murder and crimes are not only commonplace but embraced. While this works for the nature of the game, narratively it felt like a step back from Rockstar. One thing I noticed in GTA 3 as I was playing it is that satire is played off so well and with so much more subtlety. All the news reporters, radio presenters, and personalities all sound very serious, if you don't actually listen to what they are saying, you think that they were talking about something normal every day. They sound like real people in real roles, but what they actually saying, that is fully truly great satire, and they nailed it in earlier games like GTA 3, Vice City, and even San Andreas to a lesser extent. In GTA 5, the news reporters sound dumb, like they're actually impaired or something. They openly poke fun at the rampage and crime rampant in the city. It makes the city and your action within feel more appropriate within the confines of the game. But within the confines of the story, Los Santos feels stale and abstract. It feels much in line with the crude parody than a trademark subtle satire that GTA is known for. My main point here is that the flaws within the structure of the narrative of a game actually serves to enhance as a game. I felt no ludor I felt no ludonarrative dissonance throughout my entire playthrough, and I never compelled to play just one more mission, and but never have those missions felt like I was driving to random letters on a map with no motivation or reasoning. The missions themselves are more interesting and diverse like ever before, but they were lacking any connection to a grander overarching theme or story. I feels like in a big way GTA 5 is the antithesis of GTA 4. Everyone complained about GTA 4 for being too heavy on story, too gritty in its representation, and missions are repetitive and unexciting. Maybe that's true, but in GTA 5 we see those issues addressed, and while we have a better game, it is also one of the weakest and the most hollow stories in the series, something I can't help but disappointed in. Overall, these gripes are no deal breaker for me. I still love the game and its overwhelming amount of things to do. Overall, I give this game solid 7.5 out of 10, as I enjoyed it quite a lot. This is also my first playthrough, so perhaps the score would rise if I played it again.